Now, in order to do this and fix your average rate and all that, the very first most important step is to actually find your true vision. What's the vision for the hotel? Let me explain what this means of the vision. I've noticed that hotels, when you ask them what's the vision, first thing, not all employee knows the vision. Only the upper management knows the vision. So if the upper management only knows the vision, the employees will not be able to execute because they don't know where they're going. In building your game plan, you will also need to do something called rally your team. Rally your team means you need to convince them. They may disagree with you, but you need to convince them. Hello, my name is Adrian and welcome to the Vision Impossible podcast, where we talk about everything relating to hospitality. Now this week, we'd like to talk a bit about something that's totally different. And I know now it's actually August. So usually in August, that's actually the last month before hotels start to prepare for their budgets. It's about numbers that they're going to achieve next year. What's the targeted revenue? What are they going to do? And of course, a lot of action plan. But someone recently asked this question to us. Actually, this is a very interesting question. Adrian, why is it that hotels who spend hundreds of millions building probably a 4-star or 5-star hotel, let's say for example, if the investment is 100 million, they make, let's say, about 5 million in net profit before tax. And a hotel at the same location that spends maybe 30 million makes 2.5 million, half of what the larger hotel made. But if you do the comparison, right, you spend 100 million, you make 5 million net profit. If you spend 30 million, you get 2.5 million net profit. Why then would I take the risk of investing 100 million to build such a big hotel and only make 5 million in the end? Why is it that way? It was actually a very interesting question. And the reason why those numbers were there is because obviously the bigger the hotel, the more expenses there were, the more manpower, you had more facilities, you have more running costs, and you have more manpower costs. But one of the deciding factors of a hotel's net profit is not only on the cost, it's also on the top line, which is the average rate. And a lot of times people think that if I have better facilities, it means that I can sell at a higher rate. If I have a ballroom, I can then sell at a higher rate. If I have a gym, I can sell at a higher rate. The answer is it's not really about facilities. Because if you look at some hotels, Hotel A has like gym, ballroom, restaurants, signature restaurants, they still make X amount of revenue and only 5 million net profit. Where the other hotel that spent 30 million doesn't have restaurants, doesn't have ballroom, doesn't have facilities, only has rooms, but they make 2.5 million net profit. And the answer to that is actually very, very fundamentally depending on the average rate. So you would notice, right, the revenue of the hotel is very much determined by the average rate that is being sold. Higher the average rate, the more revenue you get. The lesser the average rate, the lesser your net profit is. But the question to ask is, what determines the average rate of a hotel? And some people think it's the facilities that I have, it's the gym that I have, the restaurants that I have. It's not the actual answer. It actually boils down to 3 main points that determines the hotel average rate. Number 1, location, location, location. Whether we like it or not, or we agree or not, location plays a very big role in the hotel's average rate. If you're located in an area where the average rate is just 200, it's not possible for you to sell 300 to 400. If you're located in a place that, for example, if you're located in KLCC area in Kuala Lumpur, obviously your average rate is going to be very high because surrounding hotels are obviously selling high. So location is very crucial, or one of the key points in determining how much average rate you can charge. Number 2, similar to location, in that same category, is actually the reason to travel. Meaning to say, are guests actually traveling for medical? Let's say, for example, in Penang per se, you have a lot of tourists, medical tourism. Tourists will come visit Penang for medical purposes. So the reason to travel pushes the average rate higher. Okay? So we lump that into one category, location and reason to travel. So the point number 2 is actually based on the demand and supply. If there is high demand and low supply, obviously the average rate goes up. If there's low demand, high supply, average rate goes down. And that's one of the reasons why a couple of years back, we wrote an article about developing accommodation development rights. Because we believe that if there's an oversupply of hotels, what you will do is that it's not going to help tourism. It's sort of going to cannibalize the average rate because there's no control. I think we've seen in situations like in other countries, whether it could be in Europe, where there was an oversupply of accommodation, and what happened is that the average rate started to drop. Average rate starts to drop, revenue drop, net profit drop, people start losing their jobs. So we believe that growth of supply has to be in tandem with market demands. You cannot just grow and just approve hotels to open up when there's no demand, or There's no data to back up the growth. So average rate is very dependent on demand versus supply. And the third is called the desirability of your hotel. What it means is that how much they desire to stay in your hotel. Let me give you an example. Aman Hotels, I've been a fan of Aman Hotels, and I sort of learned I've seen how beautiful their products are in totally very secluded islands, but people still travel there because of the desire of wanting to stay in those hotels. Those hotels are, let me give you an example of one hotel in particular. This hotel is called the Arrowood Hotel. It's actually located at Moyo Island in Indonesia. And obviously accessing to this place is not easy. It's a national park. And to get there, you need to actually take a speedboat and travel for 45 minutes just to reach that island. And it only has 17 guest rooms, right? You should check out the rate and see how much is it. So why do people desire to go to this place? Because of two reasons. One, obviously privacy. You get privacy, no one disturbs you, you're so close to nature, and you get a total peace of mind when you stay at that hotel. So that makes the product extremely desirable. Or I'll give you another example. If the hotel is able to anticipate all your guest needs, if the hotel can provide you with an amazing experience, it becomes extremely desirable. When that happens, your average rate naturally goes up because guests are willing to pay more to stay at your hotel. So these are the three reasons that sort of dictate, or the three reasons that affect your average rate. So if you are one of those hotels who find that, Adrian, I'm in a good location, but my average rate is not there. My competitors are selling at 500. Am I only at 300? Or if you say that, Adrian, there's huge demand in the location I'm at. The supply is low, demand is high, but I'm not getting my fair share. What should I do? And that's the reason we've developed this thing called Vision Impossible. Podcast is also called Vision Impossible. We have come up with a methodology that allows you to accelerate and amplify your results. And that's a 6-step process. And today, I'd like to share 3 of those steps with you. Now, in order to do this and fix your average rate and all that, the very first most important step is to actually find your true vision. What's the vision for the hotel? Let me explain what this means of the vision. I've noticed that hotels, when you ask them, what's the vision? First thing, not all employee knows the vision. Only the upper management knows the vision. So if the upper management only knows the vision, the employees will not be able to execute because they don't know where they're going. Number 2, it's a constant change of vision. This week, the vision is to do 50% GOP. Next week, the vision is to do something totally different. And you notice that sometimes the vision just keeps changing week on week, or sometimes every month, or sometimes every quarter the vision changes. And maybe, GMs will probably say, we've got to adapt to the market. Well, yes and no. Adapting to the market is important, but a true vision means what do you want to achieve by when? That has to have clarity. Example, the vision of the hotel is to be the best hotel brand in this category by when? That's a very clear vision. I know a lot of GMs will tell me, Adrian, our vision is to make money. Make how much, right? Making money is not a vision. You need to actually set a true vision clearly, how much you want to make by when. That's actually a very crucial point. That's step number 1. And once you anchor your vision, you don't keep changing it, right? And that's another thing, right? If you keep changing your vision, you probably keep changing direction, and it takes a lot of effort to build momentum. Right? And that's why things get disorganized. So getting your vision right is point number 1. Point number 2 is to actually do the assessment and alignment. I've done marketing plans for quite some time. And every time I've done marketing plans, I noticed that it's not done based on data. We used to do this amount of revenue. We achieved this amount this year. And using those data, we try to forecast what's going to happen the next few months. That's not really making a proper assessment. A proper assessment is sort of understanding what the guest needs and wants are. What are the challenges that customers face? Because the customers are the one that are paying for the hotel, to stay at the hotel. And if you don't solve their challenges and solve their problems and understand what their needs and wants, then your revenue is going to continue to go down, or your average rate is going to go down. So the assessment part is where you identify where the opportunities are for you to grow. And it's a crucial point to do. It's not only based on what you've done the last 8 months and try to forecast what's going to happen next year. Because, well, people say numbers don't lie, but trends are not the same. Trends do change. Customers' requirements change. So if you're basing it purely on data alone, you might make the wrong decision. And that's why sometimes hotels forecast the wrong numbers, because they're forecasting only based on numbers that they've done before. They're not basing the data from what customer wants are, what are their needs, what are their requests, what are their desires. That's where you make correct decisions. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is that we call it build your game plan. And building your game plan means that after you've identified all those opportunities, you put them into a game plan, you need to share this with your team. And the team not only means the management level. You need to tell it to your entire hotel team, the highest level right down to the most entry job. The cleaner needs to know. The steward needs to know. The waiter needs to know. The front office associate needs to know. And all these people need to know exactly what's happening. Because if you don't explain this to them, they will not know what's happening on top. And they will be clueless. They will not know the vision. They will not know the steps. How are we going to achieve it? They totally have no clue. And in building your game plan, you will also need to do something called rally your team. So when you build your game plan, one of the most crucial things is to also rally your team. Rally your team means you need to convince them. They may disagree with you, but you need to convince them why. And I think this reminds me of a story a movie that I watched. You know, when you watch those Roman movies where when they're about to go to war, you see the general march right in front, and then the general rally everyone. All of us are going to do this. We're going to win this war. And everybody screams and shout. And that's a leader's role, which is to rally their team to say, guys, we can do it. These are the numbers. I think leaders today don't spend time to actually explain this point. You need to actually rally your team so that all of them believe in the vision. They believe in the steps to take to achieve the vision. That's point number 3. So these are the 3 most important points of finding a way to increase your average rate. Of course, you can engage us to do something for you, which we have done this with many hotels. We call them with Vision Impossible, the hotels. And honestly, we have seen their revenue grow. We have seen their average rate grow. And this is true. And we're happy to sit down with any one of you who wants to talk to us. And we're happy to share the other 3 points of how do you complete the Vision Impossible program so that you can accelerate and amplify your results. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been very, very helpful to some of you, especially for those who are doing your marketing plan next month. There's always, I remember, 8 plus 4, 8 months actual, 4 months forecast, and then you present your budgets. So remember, your average rate is determined by 3 things. 1, which is the location and your reason to travel to that location. 2 is actually demand versus supply. 3 is the desirability. And how do you fix it? It's through the 3 methods. First, find your true vision of the hotel. 2, do an assessment and alignment so that all this is done correctly. And 3, build your game plan. There's step 4, 5, and 6. We're happy to share to those of you who would like to learn more. Do reach out to us directly. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.